There's a version of you, alive right now, quietly sabotaging your own future. Not through one big mistake, through 10 small ones you've never even named. And number 8 is the one almost nobody admits out loud.
Welcome to Stoic wisdom. Let's kill them, one at a time. Marcus Aurelius wrote that our life is what our thoughts make it, not our luck, not our circumstances, our thoughts. And thoughts don't fall from the sky. They come from parts of you built years ago, usually by accident, never once examined since. Think of your future like a field. You can plant every good seed you own: discipline, ambition, patience. But if the field is full of weeds you've never pulled, the weeds win. They always win. Weeds need no maintenance to grow. Only your best crops need effort. So let's start pulling. The first one's easy to spot. It only gets harder from here. The first part of you ruining your future is the one that mistakes comfort for safety. Your brain prefers the known, even mediocre, over the unknown, even better. Because for most of human history, uncertainty meant death. The wiring never updated. Seneca warned Lucilius that most men fail simply because they're afraid to begin, not afraid of failing, afraid of the discomfort before anything changes. Every day you take the easier option out of fear instead of preference, you're voting for the same year you already had. That one was quiet. The second one is where most people get stuck for a decade. The second part is the identity of someone who's always about to start. Not lazy, often the opposite, endlessly researching, planning, preparing, rarely acting, because planning feels like progress without ever risking the verdict. Marcus Aurelius, ruling through plague and war, didn't have that luxury. He told himself you could leave this life right now. Let that decide what you do today, not next month's version of you. But preparing forever is at least honest about being stuck. The third one hides behind a much nicer name: respect. The third part is the person who needs everyone's understanding before making a move. Excessive explaining, gathering permission from people who were never affected by the decision in the first place. Epictetus taught that other people's opinions were never yours to chase. Chasing them is like chasing smoke. And yet, most people delay entire decades waiting for a consensus that never fully arrives. 3 down. Here's where it starts to sting more, because this next one doesn't feel like a flaw. It feels like a personality trait. The fourth part is the version of you addicted to the feeling of busy without the weight of progress. Full calendar, constant notifications, days that end exhausted with nothing built. Seneca said it isn't that we have a short life, it's that we waste a great deal of it. Busy feels virtuous because it's tiring, and we've confused exhaustion with meaning. Now here's the one that convinces you it's actually a virtue, which makes it the hardest to see. The fifth part is the perfectionist who won't release anything imperfect into the world. It feels like high standards. It's usually fear in a nicer coat. Because if the book, the business, the application never gets finished, it can never be judged as not enough. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that waiting for a perfect republic meant waiting forever, and small steps forward were still steps forward. Perfectionism has quietly killed more futures than failure ever has, because failure at least gives you information. Perfectionism gives you nothing.
5 in, and the weeds are getting deeper roots. This next one doesn't just waste your time, it rewrites your past to keep wasting it. The sixth part is the one still negotiating with a past that's already over, replaying conversations that ended years ago, rehearsing arguments you'll never have, staying loyal to grudges that cost you more than they ever cost the person you're angry at. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the present is the only thing a man can actually lose because it's the only thing he actually owns. Every hour spent renegotiating the past is an hour stolen from the only hour you ever had power over. There's a story that captures this one exactly. A Roman senator named Helvidius Priscus kept voicing his opposition in the Senate even after the emperor personally warned him to stay silent. Priscus answered that it was within the emperor's power to take his life, but not within his power to make him say what he didn't believe. He wasn't rebelling for the sake of rebellion. He simply refused to let fear of the past or fear of consequence dictate what he said in the present moment. Most of us will never face an emperor. We just face our own memory on repeat and lose to it daily. But before we go further, you need to know something uncomfortable. This next part isn't something you do, it's something you've let other people do to you without ever noticing. The seventh part is the version of you that's quietly outsourced its own standards to whoever's in the room. Not a chameleon exactly, whose ambition and sense of what's possible bends completely to match the environment. Around driven people, you feel driven. Around comfortable people, you feel comfortable. Around cynics, you become cynical. Epictetus warned that you become like whoever you spend your time around, and it's not a metaphor, it's measurable. Your next 5 years are being written right now by the 5 people around you, whether you chose them on purpose or not. 7 parts removed. This next one isn't like the others. This one people defend instead of admitting. The 8th part of you, the one almost nobody will say out loud, is the part that secretly benefits from being the victim of your own story. Not because you're weak, because victimhood pays. Sympathy without effort, a ready-made excuse for every stalled attempt, a guaranteed audience the moment you need one. This part isn't evil, it's strategic in the way pain always finds the path of least resistance, and it's the hardest one on this list to catch because it never announces itself as weakness. It announces itself as being realistic, as just telling the truth about how hard things have been. But look at what Marcus Aurelius actually lived through. He buried multiple children. He was betrayed by advisors he trusted with the empire itself. He ruled through a plague that killed 1/5 of Rome. And in a journal he never intended anyone to read, a journal with nothing to perform for, he never once wrote himself as a victim. Not once. He wrote himself as a participant, someone with a role to play regardless of what had already been done to him. That distinction is everything. A victim asks, why is this happening to me? A participant asks, what does this require of me? Same event, same pain, completely different future. This next one isn't just hard to spot. It's designed to reduce your entire future.
Notice how this part protects itself. It rarely shows up as complaining out loud, because complaining out loud invites challenge. Instead, it hides in small private phrasings. That's just how things always go for me. People like that always get the easy path. I never really had a real shot at this. Each sentence sounds like an observation. Each one is actually a verdict, quietly closing a door before anyone gets the chance to open it. And the cruelest part is that this identity works. It genuinely reduces the pain of trying, because if you never fully try, you can never be fully rejected. The cost is just your entire future, paid in a currency you don't notice spending. And here's the part that stings the most. You can tell exactly how much of this part is still alive in you by listening to how you tell your own story to other people. Every time the sentence removes your own hand from what happened, that's this part talking. The quiet work isn't announcing you've stopped being a victim. It's noticing, tonight, the next time you tell the story of your day, and privately rewriting the sentence so you're the one acting, not the one things merely happen to. If that one landed hard, sit with it for a second, because the 9th one is what this part built to protect itself, and it's been hiding in plain sight as a virtue. The 9th part is the one that's confused humility with invisibility. Somewhere you learned that wanting things loudly was arrogant, that ambition needed to be hidden, that playing small was the same thing as being good. But Seneca never confused restraint with disappearance. He built real wealth, wrote constantly, advised an emperor, all while practicing discipline over his desires, never their erasure. Hiding your ambition doesn't make you humble. It just makes your future smaller and calls the smallness a virtue, so it hurts less to look directly at it. You can spot this part in the small self-corrections you make out loud, downplaying a win the moment someone congratulates you, saying it's not a big deal about something you privately worked years for, shrinking a goal the second you say it out loud just so it sounds more acceptable to whoever's listening. None of that is modesty. It's a quiet negotiation to make your own future less visible, so it's less risky to want. Ask yourself honestly, if no one around you would raise an eyebrow, what would you actually be building right now? The gap between that answer and your current life is the exact size of this part. One left, and it's the one holding all 9 of the others in place. The 10th and final part is the one waiting for certainty before it commits to anything. Certainty the relationship will work. Certainty the business will succeed. Certainty the decision is correct before it's even made. But certainty was never available, not to emperors, not to philosophers, not to the wisest people who ever lived. Marcus Aurelius governed without certainty of tomorrow. Epictetus rebuilt an entire philosophy of freedom while enslaved, with no certainty his ideas would outlive him. They acted anyway, in full, because waiting for certainty is just another way of waiting forever, dressed up to look responsible. 10 parts: the comfort seeker, the eternal preparer, the permission seeker, the busy performer, the perfectionist, the past negotiator, the chameleon, the secret victim, the invisible achiever, the certainty hunter. None of them needed a dramatic confrontation to remove. They need something quieter and harder, honest, private noticing repeated daily until the pattern finally loses its grip. This is the entire architecture of Stoic philosophy, practiced by an emperor who buried his own children and a former slave who owned nothing but his mind. Your future was never being built by the big visible decisions alone. It's being built right now, in this exact moment, by which of these 10 parts you're still letting steer. So here's what I'll leave you with. Don't announce which one you're removing. Don't turn it into a performance for anyone watching. Just notice, quietly, which one hit hardest while you were listening and start there today. If this gave you a moment of clarity, sit with it in silence before you do anything else with it. And if you want to support this channel, a like helps more than you think. Subscribing means you won't miss the next one. Tell me, quietly or out loud, which of these 10 you're killing first. Until next time, stay grounded, stay clear, and remember, the obstacle is the way.